They hope that soon their water woes will be over. In the Huntington County Courthouse, Ethan Dahlen, WANE 15 News.
Jada, you know, we're just getting started. It's already hard to hear you. The excitement here is electric. Let me break down the tradition for you.
With the city adding more courts to play pickleball on, some tennis courts are being replaced for pickleball courts. That's exactly what happened right here at Hamilton Park. You now see this one tennis court, but there used to be 3.
With all that hard work and dedication, it makes these dogs better protectors than most offensive linemen. Behind me, you can see the scene that police are continuing to investigate. There's caution tape wrapped around the entire yard. So whether or not you'll be able to have feather friends like this one here in city limits will be up to city council to decide. Thick flakes have covered everything here in Angola with a nice blanket of snow, but businesses, well, they are doing their best to stay open. The McKibben Group, who pulls together demographics to help school districts predict the future of enrollment. At that meeting, a grim forecast was given.
WANE 15's Ethan Dahlen is here to explain how one has a tie to Fort Wayne.
Absolutely. Ahead of this weekend's festivities, there's been a lot of thought put into paint. And normally when we talk about the paint in basketball, we're talking about this specific area of the court right down here. But for one Fort Wayne artist who was chosen for a mural, paint is transcending the court. It's about sharing Indiana's rich basketball history, one brushstroke at a time.
Oh, look. There you go.
Chris Catalona has always loved art.
I've always wanted to share ideas and explore ideas, and art was the perfect way for me to do that.
But growing up in the Hoosier State with a family full of basketball lovers, he had to make room for a second adopted love.
Yeah, I played basketball. I wasn't any good at it. I was an art kid from the time I was born. IU ran in the blood, and then they all went to Marion, and Marion in the 80s was like the capital of Indiana basketball.
Winning 3 straight open class state championships from 1985 to 1987, the Marion Giants were dominant.
The echoes of that kind of story carried on, to me.
This year, when the NBA All-Star Game was headed to Indianapolis, the city wanted to have murals done, commemorating the state's love for the sport, and Catalona had the perfect subject.
Every single one of my family members on that side was from Marion, was in Marion, so I'm just picking their brains. You just get like these little glimpses into the past that you had no idea was a thing. You couldn't get into the games because you had to buy a season ticket. What is there to do in the 80s in a small town in Indiana? It just so happens you have the best basketball team, like probably in the nation, If you wanted to go and see a time when, it was happening, it would be there at that time.
Catalona's mural on a 6-foot-tall basketball is one of 24 pieces in a collection called Hoosier Historica. All of them bring to life a moment from the past 100 years of Indiana high school basketball. Right now on WANE.com, you can learn more about Catalona, his start in art, and find more of his work. Ethan Dahlen, WANE 15 News. They don't just share history, they even share a name. Republican candidate Tom Didier and Democrat Tom Henry haven't just been political opponents in the past, they've been family friends. I dove into both their political and family history to show why this race is really about 2 men whose roots are deeper than their political parties. As the cool fall air descends on Fort Wayne, the Summit City is faced with an important question. Who will its next mayor be? When voters look at who to vote for, they often separate candidates by party and politics, but this year they're looking at 2 candidates where the similarities are easier to find.
My name was Tom. T-O-M.
Tom Henry and Tom Didier's similarities go beyond sharing their first name. They were really cut from the same cloth, both being raised in
A large Catholic family.
Henry, one of 17.
We just had a family reunion, and I think there were close to 180 of us.
And Didier, one of 12.
We grew up in a 4-bedroom house. There was 7 boys in 1 bedroom.
2 large Catholic families sharing the same city meant that they interacted a lot over the years and, in many cases, became friends.
The Didiers and the Henrys have known each other for years.
I've known Tom for a long time.
I think our parents may have gone to high school together.
Occasionally I'd see Tom, he'd pop into the store over on Huffman Street.
His brother Jim and I went to college together.
The family's friendship would gain a political aspect when in 1984, Tom Henry ran for city council. What you remember about this guy? Talk to me about him.
Oh my God. I had more darker than I did white. Oh my goodness. Well, I started in city council in 1983.
Thanks to the people of this fine city, we raised almost $70,000.
Henry served 20 years on Fort Wayne City Council representing the 3rd District.
I thought I had done a pretty admirable job. I worked very hard.
And after a number of successful races,
I will continue to push for that focus.
he faced a familiar opponent in 2003.
Sam Tallarico, who was on council, he goes, Tom, I'd really like to see you run for city council.
I'm a rookie. I was just telling somebody else, I said, it's sort of like freshman year in college.
I had no idea who I was running against. Really, I found out that it was Tom Henry.
Didier beat Henry, putting a new face in the 3rd District for the first time in 20 years.
We're talking there. I told him that I said, if I win, it's going to be bittersweet, Tom. And he goes, same for me.
That bittersweet defeat of a friend has turned into a 20-year-long city council career.
If I would not have voted for Harrison Square in the baseball stadium, and you would have seen a different downtown. I knew back then, 17, 18 years ago, that if I voted yes for this, then all these other things that we've had happen over the course of the last 15 years were going to come to fruition.
And the 2003 loss didn't set Henry back too far himself. After some encouragement from party members and his wife, he made a run at mayor.
So I ended up running, and the rest is history, as they say.
That history, 16 years serving as the mayor of Fort Wayne, tied for the most in the city's history.
Our city has won over 24 state and national awards for everything from the greatest place to raise a family to a great sporting venue to the best run city, and I can go on and on.
We've covered the candidates' political and personal past, but last week we also brought both Didier and Henry right here for a live debate. You can see every second of the candidates going back and forth on the issues before you cast your vote tomorrow night, right now on WANE.com. Ethan Dahlen, WANE 15 News.
WANE 15's Ethan Dahlen brings us the story of Fort Wayne's Coney culture.
Well, you know, when I moved to Fort Wayne, I'd never heard of a Coney dog until that first day here when you see that bright Coney Island sign. And now I feel like I can't drive a mile without seeing a restaurant that boasts their Coney dog. So in search of understanding why Coney dogs are so popular in Fort Wayne, I spoke to a food historian and several owners of locations that stir Coney sauce daily.
A lot around us has changed, but Coney Island has not changed. You know, the scenery downtown has definitely changed.
Since 1914, Coney Island has been a Fort Wayne institution, making the Summit City fall in love with a dog that has a few simple ingredients.
A stripe of mustard. This is our Coney sauce, a teaspoon at a time. And then we're going to swing it around over here, and this is the fresh hand-chopped onions. Voila.
That simple dog has over 100 years of history at Coney Island, but it's become a Fort Wayne icon whose story is told through a number of different restaurants.
Definitely, it's a Fort Wayne thing, and there's, as you said, there's a number of different Coney places here, and you know, I think we all do it a little bit different. We all have our specialties.
But where did all these Coney dogs come from? Outside of Michigan, Fort Wayne is one of the few places the dog calls home.
It's not just a history that ties them together, but it's also a geography and it's also family.
Local food historian Laura Weston fills in the gaps, citing the history of Fort Wayne and its people.
I think in Fort Wayne, going back to the German roots, I think that has a lot to do with it.
When you combine the German love for sausages and the Macedonian flair added by the Coney sauce.
Coney Island was Macedonian owned and still is. I think that their influences really kind of took over.
You end up with something that's uniquely Fort Wayne.
The hot dogs, the buns, they're pretty much the same wherever you go. But the sauce is what makes us different. And it is the original recipe.
Ours is a little bit more meatier. We put a little bit more beef on the dogs.
I think our sauce is a little tangier. It has a little more zip to it. I don't want to say that it's spicy, but it does have, I think, a little more flavor, so to speak.
We make everything. It's not, we cook our own meats and we do everything. It's not something that comes out of everything that comes out of the can.
We wanted to switch it up a bit, and not only is our Coney sauce really, really good, It's really good on an all beef hot dog. And so it's kind of like the gourmet of the Conies.
If you want to learn more about each Coney dog we talked and showed you, including one restaurant that says they have the original Coney sauce, you can right now on WANE.com. As for me, I'm going to go enjoy this Fort Wayne tradition at my desk. Ethan Dahlen, WANE 15 News.